Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It does appear that good old Ryuku-sensei, Ryuku-san, is back at it again with another video. And this is pretty clearly titled as a critique for Wuthering Waves. And we're all experienced with Ryuku by now. We all know that the man has some of the hottest, but some of the most well-reasoned takes, sometimes, about the various gacha games that he's playing. And this is a pretty decently long 6-minute video about what he views as the biggest problem with the game. And so I'm excited to hear what his reasoning is all about, not pre-watched at all. And it's pretty clear from the description, right? It's a bit about echoes and tuners. So let's go ahead, let's get right on into it and see what he's on about. Take it away.
Farming and leveling echoes in Wuthering Waves sucks. Let me say that again. It sucks. I enjoy so much about this game. The story, the characters, the exploration, the combat, but when it comes to actually finding and leveling echoes to be used in that combat, it's an absolute nightmare. In this video, I want to explain how I think Kuro could fix the experience scarcity issue and also the tuner mechanic. Now, before I start, I know I'm going to have people in the comments saying things like, there isn't an experience scarcity issue, you just have echo management issues. I've got hundreds of tubes and many characters build up. See, there's no problem with the game. It's you. If you just level them in the steps and tune them once, you can get more than enough to have several different stuff with no problem. It's not experience that's the problem, it's the tuners. Yeah.
You should know by now that there is not an experience issue with leveling echoes. This is a mismanagement issue.
Problem. It's not experience that's the problem, it's the tuners. Yeah, whatever. Shut the fuck up. Just because you personally haven't run into the issue doesn't mean it's not an issue. Especially when what determines whether you have enough experience or not is dependent solely on RNG. Case in point, I have 2 accounts, both at Union level 80. How is it that on one account I have 800 tubes ready to go, but on the other account I have literally 0 and struggling?
I guess your RNG was better on one account, but let me just... I feel like the existence of this account, isn't that almost a direct contradiction? This has to be one of the most stacked fucking echo experience and tutor rich accounts I've ever seen. Unless he has actually no echoes on this fucking account and like nothing is leveled up, nothing is plus 25. This is actually one of like the most resource rich accounts I've ever fucking seen. I'm not gonna lie, Ryuku sensei. The existence of this account almost, I don't want to say it like invalidates everything you're gonna say across the rest of the video, but what the fuck is this? What in the fuck is this? This is the most tubes and tuners I've ever seen. What is even on here? Show the echoes, bro. Holy shit. This is insane. Oh my god.
Ready to go, but on the other account I have literally 0 and struggling. I'm doing everything exactly the same. Could it be that it's not the player that's the issue, maybe it's the game? So
well, this is the thing. It's, echoes are an RNG fueled gear. And I guess he's basically stated that both accounts have, like, the same level of investment, have, like, the same type of echoes, like, the same number leveled up to plus 25. And he's just had worse RNG on one account comparatively to the other. And unfortunately, right, in an RNG-based gearing system, the highs and lows are built into the experience. You could spend one day grinding a character, and you just roll better. With the help of RNGs, you just roll better, and you complete the character build in a single day. On the other hand, right, with the RNG-based system, you could roll and build echoes for a month, 2, 3, and still actually not have something ready to go. And I guess those highs and lows, right, are just a part of the gearing system. You would hope eventually that you'd have like a big win for a character, and there are other times, right, where you're going to be the biggest loser for a character. And so I guess that's what we're seeing across both of his accounts. One where he's a big winner and one where he's a bit of a loser, unfortunately.
Issue, maybe it's the game? So anyone that wants to come at me with that can just fuck right off. Now with that out of the way, how to fix echoes and tuners in Wuthering Waves. First up, echoes.
I mean, it is... Can't we use the counter examples of somebody going ahead? They win every 50-50, and their pity is at like 40 for the limited characters, and they end up with like a god tier account, and then they're saying, oh man, the RNG on the gacha is so good. And then there's one person that loses a 50-50 on everything. Oh, the RNG on the gacha is so bad. It's kind of just all RNG though, right? At the end of the day, how much you end up using. So I hope maybe there's like a recognition of that in here, and the focus is on how to limit RNG. We'll see.
Up echoes. Specifically, the echo experience scarcity issue. There's no way to say I think that echo experience should be infinitely farmable. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And how I think they should go about that is by implementing these 5 changes. We should be able to use useless echoes as experience fodder, which will take time, but at least it's free. The second one is the tacit suppression cost should be lowered from 60 to 30. If not, then at the very least, 2 times the drops should be available 3 times every day. These increased rewards also apply to the amount of tuners too, and if you think that's too much, just wait until the next section because it will all make sense. Also, tacit domains should only have 1 type of echo set, not 2. I think they should also put these tacit fields in lore-accurate regions as well, but that's not exactly necessary. The next...
Okay, so the suggestions are just give me more of everything. At least by now. He said he's gonna make more sense of it later, but right now it's just, I want more stuff. Wait, why are we making a video about the gacha? I want more pulls. Give me more astrite. Wuthering Waves has a massive problem. It's the gacha. Just give me more astrite. Just give me more pulls. Just give me more forgery challenge materials. Just give me more of everything.
That's not exactly necessary. The next thing we need is an echo experience only section at Yarn. We've got one for character experience and weapon experience. I think we should also have one for echo experience as well. A nice to have thing they could also implement is to remove the non-set elemental damage buffs. If not this, then at the very least make it weighted so that you have a higher chance of getting an on-set elemental damage bonus. I'm tired of getting Spectro on the Glacio set and Glacio on the Spectro set. Now these changes would address some of the echo experience issues and also some of the RNG, but let's not forget there's also another aspect to Wuthering Waves echoes: tuners. Now I've heard many people get annoyed and say,
so I'm just gonna kind of lead into the viewpoint that I've had about echoes, basically relating them to every other gear type available in gacha gaming, or at least like the most popular gacha games. It's the gear treadmill is one of the main things that keeps at least the most well-invested players coming back. And casual players that are just completing the story don't necessarily care about the gear, or they don't really care about the gear treadmill. They'll just plus 25 a bunch of random shit, equip it, and then go blow up all the story content and, you know, roll with it that way. The people that are caring the most about echoes, the people that are caring the most about scarcity, are the people that are playing the game the most. Because to have a scarcity in your echoes, to have scarcity in the materials that you're using to level them up, you have to farm a bunch of them and actually use those materials in the first place. And so this is the thing, right? It is one of like the main sources of progression for people, RNG gated progression, where you always have something to do, you always have something to grind in the game. And that's kind of like where that daily login, that whole incentive to actually come online and spend your wave plates comes from. Because every other source of progression in the game has a cap. You'll eventually get your characters to level 90. You'll eventually get all of your abilities and like your fortes, all that stuff to level 10. And once all of that is complete, and once all of that is done and ready to go, level up the weapon as well, there is actually nothing left to do in the game other than grind echoes. That's the only thing that's left. And the fact that they're completely RNG, the fact that sometimes you can win crazy big on the day of release, or you could be grinding a character for like months, that's kind of like where that element comes from. And as long as the game stays in a state where you don't need perfect best in slot echoes to deal with the end game content like Whimpering Waste or the Tower of Adversity, that in my opinion is, unless that threshold of echo investment required to clear raises dramatically, I don't think it's necessarily the biggest problem ever. Because people would be going from a 2-minute clear to like a 45-second clear when they start min-maxing their echoes. And you know, that's 1 minute and 15 fucking seconds of just them like sitting around with unused time in their clears. Or you could think of it as like going over the point threshold for max rewards and Whimpering Wastes. And so I guess I could see the massive issues, right, with the ecosystem if the game was like HSR, where you need perfect min-maxed echoes to actually clear the endgame modes in the first place. And if you don't have perfect min-maxed stuff, you don't get the 10 cycle clear and you don't get the full rewards. But until or if Wuthering Waves gets there, you know, it's just like oh, I just want to min-max my echoes and I want to do it right now.
Another aspect to Wuthering Waves echoes: tuners. Now, I've heard many people get annoyed and say that they should just remove tuners altogether, and quite frankly, I don't really agree. Like, I get it, I totally get it, but I'm going to argue that Kuro should keep them in the game. However, I think there should also be a massive overhaul about how tuners are used in-game. This is how they fix tuners. Right now, when you upgrade an echo at levels 5, 10, 15, 20, and 25, new subsets are unlocked after you tune them for 10 each.
I just shit myself, sorry. Give me 1 second to recover. Oh, yeah, that's what... Oh, yes, Ryuku-san, you did it again, buddy. Boom.
10 each. And if you get bad rolls on subset RNG, you can recycle these echoes to get a portion of that experience and tuners back to reuse. However, what I think they should do is that at those respective levels, the subset type, but not the amount, should be visible. However, they are locked and do not affect any character that equips them until you tune them. This will help players decide when and where to effectively and efficiently use these tuners. But here are the new mechanics I think they should implement. Right now, the cost to tune an Echo is 10, but for 5 times that amount, 50 tuners, they should allow you to re-roll the substat type before unlocking, which is where you get hit with some more RNG to determine how much attack percent you get, for example. So RNG plays a role in what other substat you get and also how much of that substat you get as well. But that's not all.
I don't think this suggestion is very good at all. I think that this would turn the game way too easy if you're paying money. Think about it this way, guys. You're basically now guaranteeing perfect echoes at the cost of a lot of tuners, and you have essentially put in a massive pay-to-win route to getting perfect echoes. And now, like, the playing field across players is dramatically shifted. To the point where, like, somebody's just gonna buy a fuck ton of tuners from the shop. They buy a fuck ton of tuners from the shop, and then they just keep re-rolling those substats until they're perfect. And I guess this is the thing. When you have, like, dynamics like that in a game that let you basically just massive leaps and strides, like, start outpacing every other player if you start spending some money, that can be a bit of an issue for a lot of people that aren't spending money. And this is the thing. The advantages that you get in WuWa are pretty clear for spending wave plates, right? You can go ahead, you can farm more, you can do more Tassifeels, you can get yourself more access to more tuners and stuff like that. But it's like, gear to me is kind of like the big equalizer for a lot of players, where it's almost like a chip on the shoulder for either like a free-to-play or a low spender to be able to be like, yeah, I've got a perfect echo. And there could be that whale over there, that big whaler, who is going to be farming for this perfect echo forever, but I got it before they did. And that's kind of like a nice thing in a game like this, which is obviously dominated by power boosts from sequence nodes, power boosts from like weapon refinements. Having like that kind of like big equalizer in there is, I think, what motivates the grind for a lot of people, especially the most dedicated ones. And again, if you're a casual, you don't give a shit about the ecosystem and your substats in the first place. And so I guess to me, this would just like dramatically shift the playing field more into the favor of just, you know, whaling for tuners, using the reroll on like the one bad subset you have, and then just rolling perfect echoes everywhere. If the system that he's talking about was implemented, it would make it extremely easy to get like god rolls, as long as you're, you know, shelling out that cash.
That's not all. For 20 times the amount, 200 tuners, I think they should allow you to specifically...
Okay, yeah, it gets even deeper and deeper. It's getting even deeper and deeper, actually. So everything I just said, amplify it by like 5,000, 6,000. If you're able to do this.
Choose the substat you want. But just like before with the substat reroll, they should not allow you to choose the amount of that substat that you get. So you could have 12.6% crit damage or 21% crit damage, or anything in between. This allows for potential continuous improvement of echoes for those sweaty players that really want to min-max. These changes also play into the lore of what a tuner is. A tuner is something that you use to tune an instrument to the correct sound you want, after all. Using tuners in this way allows you to be able to craft echoes to...
Robot in the fucking Wikipedia article. Holy... I'm sorry. This is an incredible video. This is an incredible video.
You to be able to craft echoes to have the exact stats that you want to build your characters, and also to be as strong as you want for a price. As I said, 200 tuners for just one stat. It's not an insignificant amount. And if you wanted to craft one singular perfect echo, that could cost up to 1,000 tuners. And also, don't forget, you need 5 of these echoes for just one character. So a possible 5,000 tuners in total. Okay, now some of you may be thinking that with all these echoes, all this experience, all those changes to tuners giving players any degree of control over their echo rolls, that would break the game and remove any of the incentive for players to continue playing. And
I want to see how he breaks down this part. I want to see how he breaks this down.
To those people I say, would it? Really? Would you quit? I don't think so. Having tuners be used this way also incentivizes people to continue playing, to use wave plates on Tassifeels to earn the echo experience, and also to earn these tuners to guarantee these stats. But even then, there are many games out there that rely on players to repeatedly play dungeons and other domains in the
Well, I guess this is the thing. He's using the argument that having all of these mechanics in here would motivate people to keep grinding endlessly, but the methods that he's describing would inherently speed up the time that it takes to acquire perfect gear, and it would reduce the amount of time you spend grinding because you're done. if anything, the current state of the game that's entirely all of your gear rolls are dependent on RNG is that, if anything, the current tuner system is more like an MMORPG. The current system is more like an MMORPG, where everything is randomized on drop. You have to like spend resources and stuff like identifying it, blah, blah, blah. And then you don't get a good piece. You're back in the echo mines. You're back in the tacit fields farming more and more. And so this is almost like a counterexample to his point. And I think I see a chat by Fob. And guys, ladies and gentlemen, Fob is one of the biggest whales in the space. He's spent thousands of dollars on these games. He's openly admitted that he would have a house if he didn't spend so much on gacha games. And this is his take. Whales would quit. Gacha games use RNG to keep people playing. Making essentially have a pity would not keep people staying at all. And that's what the system would do, right? It would give you a pity for your gear, guarantee everything, and you would end up in a state where you don't have anywhere to progress your account anymore until the new character releases. And when gacha games are a model that thrive off of daily logins, that thrive off of somebody repeatedly engaging with the game, on a schedule, which is what tacit fields do for every single endgame player that cares about gear, then if that system isn't there and you're basically done with a character, I mean, that's kind of like the way it goes, right? Why would whales quit if there's a new character released every 3 weeks, which is basically a schedule of you needing to finish a build in 3 weeks? So think about it this way, Acura. Let's just say you're done with the character, you finish them. You have nothing else to grind for on the account. Are you more likely to just log in and mindlessly farm materials for characters or something that you don't have yet? This is the thing. It's like the RNG system allows you to have goals for like every single character. It allows you to repeatedly go ahead and have some sort of progression. No matter where you are in the game, something can always get better. And the idea that you're only going to play when the new character releases, that's a little iffy. Because what if you don't like the new character that releases and you just don't pull them? You literally have no content for the patch. Like, you're forgetting that for this system to work, you would have to pull them. You don't gotta like them to collect those. So the crux of your argument is that people don't pull the characters they want just so that they have something to grind for. So people are going to pull characters they actually don't want to pull because if they don't pull, they don't have anything to do in the game. Does that sound like an actual, like, sound argument? That doesn't sound like it makes sense at all. If you're a whale, you're gonna spend money. Guys, you seem to be under the impression that, like, whales are, like, well, some of them are mentally ill, but, like, you seem to be going into the direction of, like, whales are just stupid, where they're gonna pull characters they don't want. They're just gonna S6 characters they don't give a shit about because they're just looking to burn money wherever they can. That is one of the most, like, dented takes I think I've ever seen. Making it so that the only content people are able to do is if they pull the new character doesn't make sense. Because if they just don't like the character, they don't have anything to do. They don't have anything to do if they don't like the character. And you seem to be going in with the assumption that, like, they'll just pull everybody, even if they don't like them. Which is just off. So we got the response from Fob. Bro, if there was a pity to echo stats, people, especially whales, would have 1,000 million tuners. A character every 3 weeks would not make a dent in that. So yeah, they're going to log in, the new character drops, they go perfect their echoes, and then they stop playing. So to sum all of that up, it's a matter of when you are able to have a soft pity on the gear, you're going to build up a fuck ton of these materials. You're going to eventually reach the finish line. And once you reach the finish line in a game, guys, once you're done with all the content, once the only thing you have left to do is like showcases of how much faster you can clear things, and there's no more progression anymore, that's when people start putting down the game. When there's no more opportunities for them to progress with the way that they're doing things, think about Grand Blue Relink. The game where once you get all the legendary weapons, you unlock every single stat boost, you perfect all of your bonuses, there's really no more reason to play it anymore because you've accomplished everything in the game. And so you log in maybe once in a while, once a week or once a month to go have a little bit of fun, but you're just like, well, there's nothing left for me to do here. And so I don't see a reason to log in anymore. And that is one of the number one things that game devs, gacha devs, don't want. They don't want players just to come in every 3 weeks and then play the game for a short spurt and then not play it again for another 3 weeks. And unfortunately, for the biggest spenders, that's what a system like this that guaranteed gear would do. It would create that sort of grinding mechanic where, again, you finish the build in 3 weeks, you grind materials, and you don't play again until the next 3 weeks. because you're done. Everything's done. There's nothing left to progress anymore. There's really no more additional enjoyment or additional progression you're getting out of the time you're spending. And guys, I would take it from the whale himself. I would rather listen, right, to somebody who's actually a whale, to somebody who's actually spent thousands of dollars. We've got two of them here, right? I'd rather listen to these guys on what keeps whales playing the game than anybody else, right? And that's probably what these companies do too. These companies probably write to whales, they petition them, they give them surveys, and they find out what the whales want in the game and what keeps the whales playing. And they probably listen to the whales, they listen to their biggest spenders, and they work off of that. And that's the thing, guys. When Glazer Acura, I don't think you are a whale. I don't think Ryuka's a whale either. And when the argument that we're talking about, right, and the reasoning we're talking about is what keeps whales playing the game, I don't think you guys are in a position of expertise or even experience to be able to comment on the matter. So that'll be my final take on the whale discussion. Editor, good luck with that one.
Play dungeons and other domains in the hopes of getting decent equipment for just one character. There are also games which allow you to max out multiple characters too. I mean, I've personally spent hundreds of hours leveling each character, each of the heroes on Dynasty Warriors, for example. And we already have 29 characters in the game right now, with many more to come in the future. With the systems I've laid out, there are still significant but reasonable levels of RNG with understandable mechanisms to give players something to work towards if they continue to play the game.
So I guess this is the thing. Going back into that whole MMORPG example, he talks about how there's incentives to infinitely grind in raids or dungeons for gear. And, well, that's kind of what people are doing with tacit fields in the current state of the game. They're infinitely grinding tacit fields for the opportunity to get better echoes or min-maxed echoes, all in the pursuit of like that perfect piece, the perfect 5 pieces for every character. So I guess that kind of dynamic is already in the game. And I guess the suggestions that we're seeing here, it would be kind of like a promotion against that mechanic.
If they continue to play the game, these systems create enough incentive to continue playing without the absolute futility of pure RNG, which I remind you can and does lead to player burnout because it's happened in this game and also many other games that have these systems.
Isn't that the same exact issue that can exist in an MMORPG? Where you run the same raid or dungeon like 30 times and you just don't get the gear? And so you're just like, I quit. But we use the MMORPG example as like a positive thing when it's, I mean, the 0.81% drop rates, right? On like the super legendary piece of gear.
Also many other games that have these systems. I've already seen multiple people say that they're going to drop Weathering Waves because of the RNG. So like I said, with the tuners, it should be 10 to tune, 50 to reroll the substat, and also 200 to choose the substat. But these numbers can be flexible. I don't know where the balance should lie. This is just something I give as an example. So they could be higher, they could be lower, perhaps maybe 300 tuners for the substat selector. But even still, I don't think we should be afraid to implement systems like this just in the off chance that they might be too overpowered. That's the point of patches, to find the perfect balance. But if Kuro implements these changes that I've laid out for both the Echoes and also the tuner systems, I think that could revolutionize the Artifact, Relic, Echo, whatever systems that they have in this game.
So the way that I view it is Wuthering Waves is currently the game where you grind gear the fastest. You'll have a usable, honestly, like pretty decent double crit set. Probably like the fastest out of any big gacha game on the market currently. And these suggested changes would, in essence, right, reduce that gear grind even more and more to the point where it's extremely fast, right? Extremely reliable to get a great set of gear. And when that grind isn't there in a game where every other progression system is capped, you will literally run out of things to do. You will run out of things to spend wave plates on and feel like you're getting something out of it. And I do think that at the end of the day, it's something that would inherently just negatively affect playtime. It would just end up, instead of burnout from the gear grind, it would be burnout from the fact that you're just grinding for stuff with no purpose, with nothing to actually do or spend it on. Like, what do you do when your character in Elden Ring is at the max level and you've upgraded every weapon in the game to the max level? Do you just walk around killing stuff for fun and then just farming? You'll maybe play PvP, but that's something that gacha games don't have, right? And they don't have it for a good reason. And so you do New Game Plus, you stop playing, you take a break from it, you wait until the expansion comes out, and that's not really what a gacha game wants to do. They don't want you to have any incentives to stop playing because you feel like you're done with the game. Because when you feel like you're done with a game and you beat it, you kind of stop playing it, right? And what the gear grind does is it makes you feel like you're never actually done with the game, that you can always do something or improve something and make it better. And that's the goal. You'll always have a character that needs a little bit of extra love. You'll always have a character that needs a little bit of extra work. And I guess putting that pity on the gear, there's a reason why almost no game has like super accessible pity on all the gear, because the researchers, right, the experts, they know what that does to playtime. They know what that does to engagement. They know what that does to retention. And think about it this way. The more people that are being retained, the more people that are playing every single day for this game, theoretically, the game should only get better from that. That'll lead to more players spending. That'll lead to Kuro having a bigger budget, and that allows them to add more, bigger, and greater things to the game. And if you're in the support of a change that would inherently, again, based off the research and based off the analytics, would reduce playtime and have less people playing in the long run, that would actively, in my eyes, lead to lower scope updates and potentially, making the game actively worse. That is like that big corpa. That's like the analytical, data-driven point of view. The less people playing the game on a regular basis, the less people spending, the lower budget the game has, the closer it is to EOSing, all because you wanted to grind gear faster. When you know that the gear grind is one of the main reasons why people play the game. So this is kind of like the gamer versus like the gamer perspective. Lowercase g versus capital G. And when you want a game to succeed, sometimes you got to make some sacrifices. And having the RNG gear system, in my eyes, is kind of one of the main things that keeps a well-invested player coming back. And the well-invested players are typically the ones, right? Like good old Fobbit over here. They're the ones spending the most on the game because they're seeking perfection constantly. So with that, let me know what you all think. I think that this is an interesting take, but I do think it's a bit of a short-sighted solution that has a lot of unintended negative consequences that I don't think are ever thought about that much in the discussion. Because this is beyond just a game, right? This is a business. This is like a corporation. And you got to give and take when it comes to stuff like this. It's free to play for a reason. So with that, let me know what you all think. Peace out.